force. Now, the history of the Knitting Nannas is an interesting one. They were originally set up in areas around New South Wales to protest against CSG and fracking, but they've since widened their brief. In fact, they have a new name in the Illawarra, the Knitting Nannas Against Greed, or the Illawarra Knitting Nannas Against Greed. In other words, IKNAG. That's their acronym, not mine. Yesterday they were gathered outside the office of the member for Shellharbour, Anna Watson, and I took the opportunity to go down and have a chat to them.
I'm Rebecca Albury from the Knitting Nannas Against Greed in the Illawarra.
We're sitting here outside Anna Watson's office in Shellharbour. What are you hoping comes out of this for you?
Well, we would like the issues about fossil fuel targets and deadlines, so to speak, to be raised at the ALP State Conference that's coming up. And so we're trying to talk to the local members who are members of the ALP to raise the issues with them, to get them to raise those issues in the State Conference.
My name is Anne Gadd.
And what have we got you doing today, Anne?
Well, we're here to see Anna Watson, and we want her to take stopping fossil fuels seriously, and we don't want just a moratorium on fossil fuels. We would like a ban now, because we feel there is plenty enough precedence as to the damage that the fossil fuel mining industry does, whether it's coal seam gas or coal or whatever. We don't have to look for further proof. It's all there. It's there in other countries, and places like New Zealand and whatnot, they have been able to put a ban on this kind of mining. So that's what we would like her to seriously consider to take
Does
forward.
fossil fuels mean not just coal, but gas and petroleum as well?
Coal seam gas, petroleum, yes.
Well, we're standing here next to the road and there are cars driving all past us. What does a ban mean?
What does a ban mean? Well, a ban means that, maybe from now on we have to think about renewable energy and getting serious about renewable energy, and rather than the government kind of putting that to a side and not talking about it in a serious way and encouraging it, people can do it. People can get on board with this. If we put our money, like investments through your super fund, the banks that you put your money into that invest, wherever you're putting your money, so the investment goes into renewable energy, so that things like electric cars, that sort of manufacturing could be speeded up a bit.
I'm Annie Marlowe. I'm a knitting nana, part of IKNAG, which is Illawarra Knitting Nannas Against Greed.
You seem to have expanded your brief well beyond simply coal seam gas. Is your organisation different to other ones we find around Australia?
No, I think a lot of the knitting nana loops in New South Wales have done that as a reaction to the current government when they got back into power with a far reduced vote, and they brought back a lot of the coal seam gas licences. So people are feeling safe. We don't believe it is safe, because at any time those licences could be issued again. We want a ban, and this we've been talking to Anna about as well. But it's not only coal seam gas that's the problem for the planet at the moment. It's all fossil fuel mining, and it's particularly thermal coal that we're going for. So there's coal seam gas that's, except for the Pilliga and Camden, is sort of on hold at the moment. Coal mining is definitely not on hold. There are so many potential licences that are waiting to go out and the mining to start in New South Wales. It's horrifying.
Okay, so by thermal coal you mean coal that goes into coal-fired power stations.
Yes.
What about coking coal, which is most of the Illawarra's coal, and as we've seen in Tarmore, is a vital part of producing steel. In fact, they're owned by the same company as of a few weeks ago. Do you support the continued mining of coking coal?
We're very aware of this, and the Illawarra does produce good anthracite, good, what do they call it, metallurgical coal. However, the writing's on the wall, and there's that the Indian firm that's bought out Whyalla. They're doing they've got co-production of energy going there. There's a few other measures. They're doing a lot of renewable energy.
Yeah, Sanjeev Gupta calls it green steel.
We could follow that example here in the Illawarra. We understand absolutely how important coking coal at the moment is to steel making, but there are measures you can do to reduce your emissions from it. And it's that sort of stuff, that sort of innovative stuff, and some of it's transitional, and maybe eventually I think in Sweden there's research into using hydrogen for steel making, but it's at very early stages at the moment. But thermal coal is the dirtiest coal. Like, you get much more carbon emission and other sort of crap, from it than a cleaner burning coal, which is what anthracite is. So, we just need action, and because carbon is on the increase in the atmosphere, and that's shocking at a time when half the barrier reef's gone from coral bleaching, Bangladesh are drowning, the Pacific Islands are drowning and for goodness sake, here we're having a balmy autumn, aren't we? It's climate change, for God's sake. Let's get on and do something about it, and that's why we're talking to politicians.
Anna Watson, member for Shellharbour.
What's it like being invaded by a bunch of Nannas who are now sitting outside your office festooned with black and gold wool? What's that like? It doesn't look like a regular protest to me.
Oh, Nick, I went out there thinking how lovely a bunch of knitting Nannas, won't they be gorgeous? And then you go out there and face them, and they're absolutely across their topic. They know everything about their issue. They're quite well informed. They're passionate. It's an absolute pleasure to have a conversation with these ladies today.
It'd be different, though, if they were talking about corruption within the Labor Party or something like that. Surely you must have gone through protesters that were less friendly than this.
Well, as an ex-union official, I spent 15 years dealing with protesters, Nick, so that's nothing new to me. But what I am pleased about is the fact that they have come here today to talk about the environment. It's an important issue. And I think the problem is that our young people get it. I've got a 28-year-old and a 30-year-old, and that is two of their biggest issues, is housing affordability and the environment. And I think the younger generation understand this, but I think it comes down to education. We need to actually talk about more our environment, how we're treating it, what measures we can put in place to protect it. Water is important, food security is important, and I think what these ladies are here to talk about today, I'm very interested in what they're saying, and I agree with them. In fact, just recently there's been motions pushed through our local branches of the ALP in relation to the environment and its protection, and I think it's an issue that is just growing every year, and I'm very passionate about it myself. Some years ago, I can remember, having a conversation with a young man who'd spent some time in London, and he was telling me he went to turn on his tap in his unit one day, and he could light a match and set it on fire. That sent alarm bells ringing through me, Nick.
But can you give, say, a group like the Knitting Nannas anything like what they want, which is a deadline to phase out basically all fossil fuels?
Well, what I've asked them to do is put forward their questions to me in writing. All the questions that they have, that they want to ask the politicians, if they can put them in writing to me, I can go searching for the answers and then forward those conversations. I do intend to call a meeting both with the member for Wollongong, the member for Keira, member for Whitlam and the member for Cunningham, so we can all sit around the kitchen table together with this group and discuss how we're going to move forward with this. I am that passionate about this issue.
Okay, well, they're all Labor members. Groups like the Knitting Nannas or even Get Up, a de facto part of the Labor Party? Do you use them for your tactical advantage?
Absolutely not. I don't know whether they're members of the Labor Party or not, or I don't know whether they even vote for Labor. But regardless of that, Nick, this is an issue that affects every single person in this country, and particularly on this planet. Let's face it. Politics aside, this is an issue. I mean, I don't want to leave this place not leaving it better than how I found it. And in the way that we're going, that's exactly what's happening. I mean, look at all the rubbish in our oceans, and that we're talking about now. And we're seeing, animals dying in fires and things like that. It's just not good enough. We can do so much better than this.
Okay, well, what can we do as a state government when we rely on a lot of the revenue from coal, especially the thermal coal that comes out of the Hunter?
Look, I think that the government, Labor's position is a complete moratorium on this. We just ban it until the chief scientists have had further discussions.
On what in particular?
Well, on coal seam gas, on fracking and on mining on coal seam gas. And
but they're way beyond coal seam gas now. The knitting Nannas, they are against all forms of fossil fuels essentially. Coal seam gas seems to be, it's certainly not growing in New South Wales at the moment, if anything. But I mean, as you heard, coal is on the way out. Do you think that's true?
Well, I think to a certain extent it is. I think that's years down the track. But I think that the pause button needs to be hit. The state government need to hit the pause button until proper consultation can take place. It just needs to stop. There's no rush, but we need to get the facts. And I was very disappointed when the federal Liberal government, when they were first elected, that one of the first things that they did was, get rid of the CSIRO, sack all the scientists. They don't believe in climate change. Well, it's happening. It's here. And anybody who wants to stick their head in the sand in relation to climate change is doing just that. They're not doing our future generations any service whatsoever.